Tomorrow. That word has a way of fooling people, makes them think they've got time, that they can relax tonight, sleep easy, and deal with whatever comes later. But sometimes tomorrow isn't just another day. It's a loaded gun waiting for its turn to go off. And the funny thing about tragedy is, it doesn't send you a polite invitation. It doesn't knock. It kicks the door in smiling, while you're still in your pajamas. You think tragedy knocks politely. No, it kicks the door in when you're mid-sentence, mid-bite, mid-laugh. It doesn't announce itself with thunder or some theatrical drum roll. It just arrives. One moment you're sipping coffee, scrolling through nothing important, and the next moment the world tilts in a way you can't tilt it back. And that's the part people never get. They imagine there's always going to be a sign, some dark cloud forming, some gut feeling. But no, most of the time, it's a perfectly normal day until it isn't. You don't see the car coming until it's already through the intersection. You don't notice the crack in the floor until you've fallen straight through it. People love to believe they'll sense it, that their instincts will whisper, "Fearful, something's wrong," but instincts, they're just another word for hope wearing a disguise. You'll convince yourself you've got more time. Everyone does. That's why tragedy feels like being slapped by a hand you never saw moving. You didn't brace yourself. You didn't even think you needed to. And in that instant, one instant, you realize how fragile every little piece of your life really is. Funny thing is, when you look back at the moments before it hit, they feel ridiculous. You were worried about a text, a bill, some stupid argument that won't matter in the ashes. And you'd give anything to go back and shake that version of yourself and scream, look around, breathe it in. Because this is the last time it will ever be like this. But you can't. Nobody can. The before is always untouchable. And here's the part that makes people squirm. Tragedy doesn't care if you're a saint or a snake. Doesn't matter how kind you've been, how many people you've helped, or how many prayers you've whispered. It comes for the good, the bad, and the in-between with the same cold hand. Because it isn't personal. It's just inevitable, like gravity. And you can curse it, fight it, bargain with it, but it never changes its mind. Most of you keep your eyes glued to the ground, pretending you can't see the horizon. pretending that if you keep busy enough, it won't happen today. You hide in routines, in the safe little cages you built. But those walls, they're made of paper when tragedy decides to blow through. That's when you learn how exposed you really are. That's when you finally feel the difference between living and just passing the time until it's your turn. And the cruelest part, by the time you see it coming, by the time you even as register that shadow creeping toward you, it's already too late to move. You stand there, frozen, trying to make sense of the shape of it, when really you should have been moving long before you saw it at all. People think the scariest part is the moment it hits. But no, the real horror is in the waiting. That silent stretch of time when you know something's wrong, but you can't see it yet. It's like hearing a ticking sound in the walls, soft, steady, patient, and pretending it's nothing, while deep down, you know it's counting down to something you won't like. That's the game, the gap between knowing and seeing. You feel it in your chest, like a rope tightening slowly, and every second you ignore it, it gets harder to breathe. You try to fill the air with noise. Work, distractions, chatter. Anything to drown out the quiet hum of dread. But dread's clever. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. It seeps through cracks in your thoughts, dripping in at 3 a.m. when the world's asleep. And in those hours, you can't hide. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince yourself you're just tired, just stressed, when really you're bracing for the thing you can't name yet. The human mind is funny. It wants answers so badly. It'll start inventing them just to keep itself from collapsing. You'll tell yourself it's just bad luck, just a rough patch, just something small that will pass. You'll bargain with the unknown, like making promises to shadows will somehow keep them from swallowing you. But shadows don't make deals. They don't care about your promises. They keep moving, stretching longer and darker until they cover everything. And here's the twist. The longer you wait, the less real the threat starts to feel. That's the dangerous part. You get used to the hum, the tension. It becomes normal. You stop looking over your shoulder because you convince yourself there's nothing there anymore. But that's exactly when it strikes. When you're lulled into thinking you've outrun it. When you let your guard down, thinking the worst has already passed. It's not a coincidence. Life doesn't just forget to hurt you. It waits. It watches for the moment your hands are empty, when your back is turned. Because when you're ready, when you're tense, you can fight, you can resist. But when you've gone soft, when you've convinced yourself you're safe, that's when the blow breaks you clean in half. You can feel it building in the smallest ways. Conversations get shorter. Smiles get thinner. The room feels colder for no reason you can explain. But you shrug it off, because what's the alternative? Admit you can feel the storm in your bones and have everyone call you paranoid. No. You smile, you laugh, you play along, hoping you're wrong. That's the trick, hoping you're wrong, but you're not. You never were. Something's been crawling toward you this whole time, and the only reason it hasn't reached you yet is because it enjoys the crawl. It enjoys the way you twitch at the sound of footsteps, the way you glance over your shoulder in empty streets. It enjoys the way you try to pretend you're not afraid. And maybe that's the worst part, not the thing itself, but the performance you put on while waiting for it to arrive. People talk about trust like it's this warm, glowing thing, something you build brick by brick until it's strong enough to stand forever. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Trust is a glass wall. Looks solid, feels safe, but all it takes is the right hit at the right angle, and it shatters into 1,000 pieces you can't put back together. You can sweep it up, glue it, tape it, but it's never the same. Every time you look at it, you'll see the cracks. The funny part, we hand people the hammer ourselves. We give them access to the fragile parts of us, the places no one else sees, and we do it smiling. Why? Because we want to believe someone can be different. We want to think there's a person out there who won't swing when they get the chance. That's the gamble. Every single time you trust, you're betting your heart against human nature. And most people lose. See? Betrayal isn't always loud. It's not always some big dramatic knife in the back. Sometimes it's a slow leak, a little truth left out here, a small lie tucked in there, a shift in tone, a missed call, an excuse that doesn't feel quite right. The kind of tiny cuts you barely notice until you're bleeding all over the floor. By then, you're too dizzy to remember where it started. And here's the trick with people. They don't always mean to break you. Sometimes they step on your trust without even realizing it. Like someone crushing glass underfoot in the dark. They didn't see it. They didn't think. They just moved the wrong way. And now the shards are in your skin. Doesn't matter if they meant it or not. You still bleed. It changes you. Makes you walk differently. You start keeping your distance, not because you want to, but because you've learned what happens when you let someone too close. You flinch when people reach for you, even when they're reaching to help. That's the part no one warns you about. Once you've been shattered, even kindness feels dangerous. But there's something else about trust that people forget. Once it's gone, it's not just about the person who broke it. It's about everyone after them. The next person pays for damage they didn't cause. You measure their words, watch their eyes, test their patience, not because they've done anything wrong, but because someone else taught you the cost of believing too quickly. They don't even know they're being judged, but they are. Every second. And maybe you start to like it that way. You keep the wall up, not because you need to, but because there's a strange kind of safety in the distance. You learn to survive on half-truths and polite smiles. You become the one holding the hammer now, deciding who gets near the glass. And deep down, you know the answer is almost no one. Because the glass may look whole again, but you can feel every fracture. You know exactly how fragile it still is. People like to think strength is loud. Muscles shouting, standing tall, breaking through walls like some hero in a cheap comic book. But real strength, it's quiet. It's the kind you build when nobody's watching. When every bone in your body is telling you to give up, and you don't. That's the strength that matters. The kind that's earned in the dark, not handed to you in the light. There's a moment, a breaking point. Everyone's got one. That instant where life decides it's going to see just how much weight you can carry before you crumble. Some people think they'll never reach it until they do, and then they realize it's not the end. That's the real test. Not the moment you break, but what you do right after. Will you stay there on the floor, or will you drag yourself up with blood in your mouth and fire in your eyes? See, here's the thing nobody tells you. The world isn't fair. It doesn't care about how good you are, or how much you've suffered, or how many times you've been almost there. It'll keep hitting you over and over until you either stop moving or learn to take the hit without falling. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you stop waiting for the rules to change, the sooner you actually start playing the game. The quiet strength isn't about winning every fight. It's about still being here after you've lost a few. It's waking up every morning knowing today might be worse than yesterday and still stepping forward anyway. That's not optimism. That's not hope. That's survival. The kind of survival that turns into a weapon if you let it. Because once you've been through enough, you realize pain stops being something to fear. It becomes something you can use. Most people run from pain. You take it, you hold it. You let it burn through you until it can't burn anymore. You wear it like armor. And suddenly, the things that used to hurt, you don't get through the same way. Not because you're numb, but because you've grown harder, sharper. You've learned the difference between pain that breaks you and pain that shapes you. And you choose to be shaped. But there's a price to that. Strength built in silence comes with a kind of loneliness. No one sees the battles you fight when the lights are off. They only see the scars afterward. And they think those scars are just decoration. They don't understand the nights you've spent wrestling with yourself. The mornings you've dragged your body out of bed when every part of you screamed not to. And maybe you like it that way. Maybe you prefer that no one knows because it's yours. The truth is, nobody hands out medals for surviving. You don't get applause for showing up when you wanted to disappear. There's no cheering crowd for the days you fought a war in your head and still managed to smile in public. That's fine. Let them think it's easy. Let them think you've always been this strong. You and I know the truth. Strength isn't given, it's forged. And the forge isn't a place for comfort. It's a place for heat, for pressure, for breaking and remaking until you can't be broken the same way again. The dangerous thing about that kind of strength is that once you have it, people expect it from you all the time. They forget you're still human. They think you can take anything, so they pile on more. And maybe you do take it. Maybe you carry more than you should, because part of you is afraid of what will happen if you stop. That's the trap. You start thinking you're only worth something if you're unbreakable. But deep down, you know better. you've already broken before. And here you are,